Breaking Brian back with another video. This is my first ever Knight of the Seven Kingdoms review. This is for the pilot episode, The Hedge Knight. So, guys, it's a new series. It's only 6 episodes. These are really short. I got HBO Plus. And I just want to say I actually really did enjoy this episode. Even though it had some problems, I did like it, you know. It's a new Game of Thrones series, and I plan on doing this, probably doing this for House of the Dragon Season 3. So yeah, let's get into it. So we have the HBO, intro kind of thing, and then we immediately pick up. It's in the rain, and I'm guessing it's in the Reach. I'm like very certain it is. And we have Duncan, next to a tree during a rainstorm. The three horses. He is, digging a grave, and it's all quiet. And then he goes up the hill. Then he brings out the body of his knight, his superior, Sir Arlen, the guy who was training him for a lot of his life. Because Duncan is a squire, was his squire kind of thing, but he was knighted, supposedly. So he brings Sir Arlen to the grave, puts him in, and then Duncan kind of just sits there in the rain, and he kind of talks about how this is what's interesting. He kind of talks about how much Arlen was like, how much he meant to him, and like how he taught him everything he knows, how to be good. And then all of a sudden, they keep cutting back and showing that Sir Arlen abused Duncan. Like, Duncan is not very smart. He's kind of like Forrest Gump, he's big, he's strong, but he's not all there upstairs. You know what I mean? And like I said, we get get flashbacks of when he was abused by Sir Arlen for mistakes Duncan made in the past, and how he ate, and his boy ate the widow's woman's pie. Just mistakes in the past. And like I said, Duncan just got abused a lot by Sir Arlen, and it's kind of like, that's crazy because in the books they say he was a good man, but it's like, yeah, the show kind of shows no, he was a piece of garbage. I mean, come on. Like, I get everyone makes mistakes, but you abuse a child, like. So yeah, Sir Arlen was seemingly like, no, not a good man. That Duncan just is not seeing that he wasn't. It was kind of like a Family Guy thing, like a cutaway gags. Like, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms is very different from Game of Thrones. It's definitely more humor based, and there's parts of it. It's a completely different show, but it is set in the Game of Thrones universe. So there is that, and Duncan just kind of sits there, and he takes Sir Arlen's sword, and he promises to be a good knight the way he taught him, kind of thing, and he buries Sir Arlen in the middle of this field, kind of thing. And then that happens, and then the rainstorm ends, and Duncan is just there. Kind of talks about how if he's hungry. He mentions how if he could sell horses, he would be able to eat. But it's like, yeah, he has 3, so like I'm not sure what's up with that. But then he looks back at the grave that he dug for Sir Arlen, and then he starts thinking about like what's his next move. And then Duncan looks at the sword that Sir Arlen left behind. Now it's his sword, kind of thing. And we see the 3 horses. Like I said, Duncan really does not need all 3. Even him and his knight, Sir Arlen, like, the guy, his superior, like, why did they have 3? Like, legitimately, like, it just didn't make sense. But anyway, he looks at them, and he actually stands in the middle of the road. He pulls a sword out and actually does a pretty cool twist with it. And the music's kind of roughing up, and it's kind of like, Duncan was kind of like, what am I gonna do now? And now it's just like he's kind of like hyping himself up, like, I'm gonna be a knight, kind of thing. And then he kind of like looks at the camera or in the distance, as it zooms in, and all of a sudden it immediately cuts to him crapping next to a tree. He is having diarrhea next to a tree, and it is so gross. And unexpected. We literally see his rear end, and I definitely could have went my whole life without seeing this. I mean, I guess it's better than seeing the front of Duncan, but still, I wish I didn't. Duncan looks up and then sees a robin that is probably like, dude, what the heck, man? What the crap? Literally, I'm willing to bet the robin said that, like, legitimately is thinking that, like, dude, what the heck? This is my tree, man. So after that, Duncan gets up on his horse, and he looks back at the grave, some flowers, for Sir Arlen. He takes one last look, and then he makes his way, to the attorney of Ashford, because he kind of heard that. I kind of wish he traveled on the road and then he happened to hear about the attorney, because like, how did he hear about it before his master died? And then we get the intro thing, A Night of the Seven Kingdoms. I'm guessing the real intro is going to be in episode 2, so I'm okay with them not doing a proper intro like a Game of Thrones show is supposed to. So anyways, we have Duncan. It's nighttime. I don't know if it's the same day or not, but Duncan comes across this inn area, and he comes across this cute little boy who's bald, and he kind of asks like, "Hey, are you the stable boy?" And he gives the kid the horses to lock up for the night and feed and groom, kind of thing, promising him a coin after. And he goes to the inn, and I like this. I like how the Duncan entered the inn. It's very quiet, and the woman just smiled at him. Like, I like this in Game of Thrones. It's been so much about politics and action, war, but it's nice seeing just the realism of like, yes, this is a place that people go to. It's a home. It's a business. Like, I like seeing the medieval stuff. It just feels authentic. It feels real. I feel like we need more of that in the franchise. We've been so focused on the nobles. So Duncan comes in and he, asks for, some food and stuff. And he actually sees a guy passed out. And, I knew he was kind of fancy. But yeah, we find out his name is Daeron Targaryen. He's actually is the firstborn. He's the heir of the Iron Throne, which is kind of crazy. At least I think he is. But yeah, he was just passed out drunk kind of thing. And, the woman kind of tells him how there's lamb roasted with crust of herbs and some ducks that her son caught, and asks if what Duncan wants one of them, and he actually says both, like, I would like to eat both of them. And she's just like joking, and she's like, you're big enough for it, because obviously Duncan is tall, taller than most people in Westeros. And that's kind of interesting. You know what I mean? And then she mentions how he asked for directions for Ashford. How much longer is it? And I like how we get to see the dead quail hanging. Like I said, I love the realism that Game of Thrones, the world of Game of Thrones shows. Little things like this are just like they add touches. She gives him a drink, and then she asks about her boy, if she helped him with the horses. And we'll get back to this later, but and then we see this cute little girl who is, I think, the innkeeper's daughter. And, I don't know, I like this, I like how real it feels, like, yeah, you know what I mean, like, this woman has, a kid, it makes the world feel realistic. And then all of a sudden, randomly, the guy wakes up, Daeron, and he just flips out on, Dunk, and it's just like, you stay away from me, I had a dream about you. So, obviously, this is a confusing scene, but Targaryens, which is what he is, are able to see into the future. They have dreams and stuff, and he was sleeping, so somehow he knows something. Duncan's gonna do something to him in the future, although Duncan is very surprised at this. And you know what I mean? And then, he puts down a coin, and we see that it looks like a gold dragon. I mean, you do see the dragon, but I can't tell if it's gold or not. And then, he just puts his dagger back, and he goes upstairs. Was the little girl there? I don't know. I guess there's a bed upstairs, like a guest bed that he's staying at. So the woman takes her coin, tells her Duncan to not worry about the guy, just ignore him. And she'll get his food. And yeah, Duncan's just kind of like contemplating what just happened. That was kind of weird. So after that, after eating, Duncan goes to check on his horses. And then all of a sudden comes across the cute kid playing as a knight. He's wearing, some of the clothes that Duncan left, and the helmet, I guess. Does it even fit Duncan? I don't know. But, he catches him, and, he tells the kid to, stop it. Don't try to steal my stuff. Don't make me smack you, kind of thing. And I love how the kid is just, he's very proper with Duncan, and also not afraid, and, all this stuff. Duncan is just kind of... It's funny how the kid... They banter back and forth because the kid's actually smarter than him, but Duncan is bigger than him, so it's really funny. And the kid even mentions how, you don't look like a knight. And that's the thing. Duncan is a hedge knight, which is the poorest type of knight. They barely have horses. They are kind of like hire me knights. They're freelancer knights, They don't have a lord. They don't have a job. They just... they're the lowest of low kind of thing. They're above commoners slightly, but, not by much. and we'll find out later, what this kid is. But yeah, it's just like, you don't look like a knight I've seen, kind of thing. And yeah, like I said, we see the kid is bald, and I kind of wonder, man, what if they made this kid the live action Aang, Avatar: The Last Airbender kind of thing. I'm generally curious how that would go down. But anyways, yeah, he kind of mentions how, Duncan, you're wearing rope instead of a leather belt, you're really poor, kind of thing. And like, he's the kid's never seen a poor knight before, hedge knight, because normally knights have armor and a sword and a horse, all that stuff. They have a job. Duncan doesn't have any of those things pretty much except a sword. So the kid asks Duncan to take him with him, and Duncan's like, wait, what about your mom? And the kid's like, she's dead. And Duncan's kind of surprised at this, and he's like, wait a minute, what about the innkeeper? And he's just like, oh, so she wasn't your mother, like she said my boy, but you were just staying with her, kind of thing. You're not actually her son. So he kind of says no, and he also says that I was in Flea Bottom once. I was in King's Landing before, my master took me. The kid asks, to be taught by Sir Duncan, how to be a knight, all this stuff, even though he's like really young. He said he could squire for him, just the way Duncan squired for Sir Arlen. But, Duncan stands his ground, says like, hey kid, enough, I'm not doing this. Stay away from me. You're better off not squiring for the likes of me. You don't want to be a knight by me, kind of thing. And then, Duncan leaves. He leaves some kind of coin. It has a star on it. So I don't know if this is normal Westerosi currency or it matches his master's sword. So, the penny tree kind of thing. So, yeah, I don't know. It is kind of confusing. I don't know, but, the kid just looks at Duncan, he's not happy about the coin, he wants to go with Duncan, kind of thing, and Duncan leaves. After that, Duncan is, riding, he's traveling with the horses, and he comes across the tourney of Ashford, and we get to see the castle. This is awesome, it's in the Reach, it's pretty cool, I love the world building. And yeah, we get to see the commoners and everyone just getting ready, they're getting all the preparations out of the way. Duncan is heading inside, and yeah, it's just he's just honestly impressed. He's never really been to a tourney, I assume, and he looks over and sees the castle of Ashford, and it's just honestly crazy. Like, this is cool. I love this in Game of Thrones. I love the world building. Sometimes it's not just action; it's just the environments that feel so real. And next to Duncan, they're getting the joust area ready, which is pretty cool. They're setting it up. We never got this in the main show or House of the Dragons. So it's really cool seeing this side of it, it's just really cool. So yeah, then we see the small folk, everyone just preparing for the tourney. They're getting everything ready, the workers, the butchers, that guy should really have gloves on. And yeah, we have, Duncan just walking around, trying to get through. Other people walking, they're dusting flags, hanging them up. And he's asked somebody to speak to the master of the games. And then Duncan enters a castle area and then hits his head because he's tall. And then it comes across a steward, the steward for House... for Ashford. I think they're Fossaways. Anyways, regardless, yeah, this guy looks like he's dunking his, bread in water. I don't know, it's disgusting. But yeah, he asked about Duncan, and also in the background we see some kids playing, and that's actually kind of cute. We have a girl there and a boy, probably siblings. I don't know if this is the steward's kids or the lord's kids. I don't know. I'm surprised they're having a girl, play in that. It's kind of interesting. It's very progressive for Westeros, considering the fact normally they don't do this for girls. So yeah, are these small folk? I don't know. But yeah, Duncan introduces himself, and he tells the kids to get out, the steward. And eventually they do. So Duncan confirms he's a knight, and yeah, we see the kids again. Like I said, they're just very cute. I love it. I love the kid casting in the show. It's great. It just feels real. So Duncan introduces himself, Sir Dunk, and the guy, you know what I mean? Just the way, yeah, this character, not a big fan of this character, I'll be honest with you, the steward. And, Duncan gives him his name. He mentions how he was a squire for Sir Arlen of Pennytree, back in Flea Bottom, boy. He gives him the sword, which is proof because the sword is well made. And yeah, you can see the sword, it has a penny on the side. So I'm guessing, this is a copper, right? That's how it works. So it does confirm that he kind of, he does have a sword that, a knight did have. And, Duncan even says that, my master would want me to have a sword. And then as a flashback, as a kid, Duncan's like, so will I be as good as a knight as you? And, Sir Arlen kind of scoffs at it. It's just like, man, he was a jerk, like, honestly. Duncan just was not aware of it. He was very naive about it. But, Duncan mentions how he wants to serve the realm. He wants to do that. The steward asked if there were witnesses to his dubbing, which, it's like, how do you authenticate that it happened? Because, Sir Arlen died during a rainstorm, nobody saw it. Could Duncan be faking it? I don't know. I like to believe him, but who knows? And the steward even mentions that if you're faking it, if you're lying, there is punishment for small folk that pretend to be a knight, that say they're a knight, but they're not. But he was joking with it, but then again, I don't think he is 100% joking. And then this guy keeps doing this. He spits booger shots in his mug and all that. Like, dude, like, get a tissue. Like, come on. Anyways, the steward tells Duncan, he can't 100% help him because they're not allowed to have hedge knights, here, poor knights, because he mentions how he has strict rules and the princes are coming, to this tourney. So there's a lot of expectations. And Duncan even mentions he was about to leave because he can't help him. But he mentions that, he saw in a pavilion House Dundarian. And he mentions how Sir Manfred, who is the son of the Lord, he can vouch for, Sir Arlen and then authenticate that he was a squire and all that stuff, for Sir Arlen. And Duncan smacks a fly. There's a lot of flies in this room. He smacked it. And, Stewart even says that, hey, if you lose the tourney, you know the rules. You have to give up your arms and, like, horse, like, to the victors. And it's just, like, all the horses? Like, and he asks if he could ransom him back. And he's just like, nope, not really. Can't. So Duncan has no coin if he loses everything. It's all or nothing gamble at a tourney, which kind of sucks. And then Duncan tries to leave, and then he hits his head again and curses. So after that, Duncan he's exploring, and he's tying up his horse, and then he comes across some prostitutes who say that they hear he's looking for Sir Manfred, and they're like, we'll wake him up for you with a stag. And he's like, I don't have a stag. And these prostitutes, I think one of them's red, but anyways, so they even mention, hedge knight, he's a hedge knight, which is sad. Duncan's like, hey, I'm not sad and all that, it's like, well, you're poor, so yeah, that is sad. It's like, excuse me, you girls are like prostitutes, like, come on. Like, anyways, they mention how Sir Manfred is going to be asleep for a while, so check back in the evening, and stuff. And Duncan is kind of upset about what the girl said to him, how he's sad and stuff, and he just wants to believe that, hedge knights can be the truest knights in the realm because, they're not obsessed with gold and all that. And then we have a scene where he's watching two people spar. It is the Fossaway cousins, the jerk Stefan and his younger cousin Raymond. And Stefan beats Raymond and he insults him and all that stuff. And it's just like, dude, like, yeah, he's a jerk. Also, his armor is stupid. I mean, come on, it's an apple, like, it's stupid. But he beats his younger cousin, and then he even tells Duncan, like, what are you looking at? And it's like, well, he was trying to cross, but you kind of blocked his path, you jerk. Like, and also you got stupid hair and a stupid chest plate. Like, come on. But he asked about the sword, and Duncan's like, yes, it is mine. And Raymond is just like, please beat up my stupid cousin. He's rotten to the core. It's an apple pun, knock the seeds out of him. Like, I'm kind of like, yeah, I hope Duncan gets a chance to do that. And Duncan says he's got other stuff to do, unfortunately, and then he leaves. And Raymond goes back to training because they're gonna do the tourney too. And we have Duncan. He goes in the woods. He doesn't have a pavilion. He's not a lord. He comes across a tree, another tree. Tree is very symbolic of him. It's tall. He's tall. And then we will get another shot. Duncan goes into the river. He's naked. We get another butt shot of him. And after that, he cleans his clothes, smacking them against the tree to dry. And, it's just like, man, what is up with this show? And showing Duncan's butt already, like the premiere. Like, please stop. It's like 3 times now. Anyways, yeah, and then we get a horse's butt. Like, this show just loves showing rear ends for some reason. Anyways, it is, more in the afternoon, and Duncan, goes heads back to the tourney, and he wants to see Sir Manfred, and one of the girls gives some guy his pants back. After that, he's talking to, I think, Red, or one of the girls, about what happened. He needs to speak with Sir Manfred, otherwise he can't compete. And the girls, he goes into a room, and like I said, these girls, they're doing something weird. Like, they're doing like this weird aerial thing where it's like this girl's pretending to be dead, but she's actually alive. It's for their customers, I guess. Like, I don't know. It's like a Snow White, and yeah, it's like a weird Snow White thing, a Snow White, Ariel, Little Mermaid thing. Like, I don't know what's going on. It's just weird. But yeah, Duncan kind of mentions how he really needs his help, and the girls mention like, hey, don't be a hedge knight, find a better job. It's just not worth it. And Duncan's like, hey, maybe I'll be different, maybe I'll be good. And the girls continue to get that other girl ready for the next appointment, I guess. And then Duncan he's getting a drink. And Duncan hears something. He goes inside a tent, and we see this cool dragon dummy. Dragons are extinct now after House of the Dragons. And this woman, Tansy, is just reciting this kind of play about a dragon, and she's just. She's just doing it for the crowd, and then all of a sudden the dragon pyromancer thing goes off. It breathes fire. It's fake fire, obviously. It's just an act, and it wows the crowd because they've never really seen a dragon. So and also I think we see some Asian Asian actors in the cast, which is kind of interesting because normally in Westeros there are no Oriental people, no Asians, so. Which is kind of interesting. So yeah, everyone kind of sees it, and Duncan is also surprised at that too. He looks at Tansy, she looks back at him. He kind of gets a glaring eye kind of thing, maybe hinting at a relationship or something. Duncan tries to leave the tent, and then we see Raymond come back. He calls him Half Man, which is kind of funny. It's a joke with Tyrion. It's what Tyrion used to be called all the time, and Duncan's like, wait, Half Man? He's like, yeah, Half Man, Half Giant. Like, I'm like, okay, that's kind of good, actually. That's kind of funny. And he kind of mentions how Raymond kind of buddies up with Duncan a little, just mentioning how, like, yeah, sorry about that earlier, just my cousin's a jerk. And they're both gonna be in the tourney, and they go into the Baratheon tent now. Not sure how Raymond got access to it and all that, but yeah, they go inside, and some guys are getting drunk and playing with live steel, looks like. So that's pretty dangerous. They shouldn't be doing that. But we get the musicians playing too. Like I said, I love the lore aesthetic in this, and Raymond pours a drink for Duncan. It definitely looks like water because it was clear, but anyways, and then we get to see Lionel Baratheon, the ancestor of King Robert, Stannis, Renly, Gendry, all of them. Like, it's cool. He's got this antler crown. Not sure how he can have a crown because he's not a king. He's only a lord, but I'll admit, like, I do like it. Also, you do see a crown. Yeah, you see a crown on the stag too. So, like, is that a production error? I don't know. But anyways, I do like it. Like, I love the aesthetic. I love how the crown looks with the antlers. It's just awesome. And I love the part where Duncan's like, he sees Lionel. He's like, I thought he'd be bigger, because it's funny because in the books, Lionel's actually he's almost 7 foot, like same height as Duncan, which is such a joke because obviously they couldn't get actors to actually be that kind of height. And then so you have Lionel, who kind of just addresses his guests, and he kind of just has this profound thought, like, if anyone cared to listen. Like, I admit, the actor they got, I don't care if he isn't super tall and muscular or whatever, like how the character is supposed to be. He just has his charisma. He's funny. He's hilarious. And he kind of mentions how our ancestors got in the field, and he loses his train of thought. It's hilarious. But he mentions how the Andals created the jousting, the tourneys, and he pauses so many times, and like Duncan pours himself another glass. He's just addressing the crowd. Like I said, they said he was like a Johnny Depp like Jack Sparrow character, and kind of crazy. Like, it makes sense. Like, he literally is Robert Baratheon's ancestor. Like, I see it. He kind of sets up a joke, and it doesn't really happen. And after that, he's just like, whatever, 100 gold for whoever beats me tomorrow, kind of thing. And then everyone cheers and all that stuff. They eat. Duncan eats a giant chicken leg, or geesh, I don't even know, honestly. And everyone's just dancing. I love this. I love the music. Everyone is just so, like, crazy, drinking, dancing, having fun. Duncan even eats this berry tart or whatever. Everyone's just getting on the tables. It just feels crazy and lively, and it's something that we've never really got in the House of the Dragons or Game of Thrones, and I just really like it. It's just new, and it feels lively. And Duncan gets called over to Lord Baratheon's table, and he kind of mentions how he kind of tries to intimidate Duncan, being like, big guys get punched a lot in the face, and it's just like, you seem scared, he kind of like trying to does that, and he mentions how, like, you're tall, Duncan, so be tall, don't act all shy and skittish. And he says that, like, or else I'll name you heretic and burn you. Like, he's trying to intimidate him. And it's just so funny. It's like, he even said it and just like, oh, I don't know. Wait, what did it do to heretics? They burn them, sir. And it's like, right. Like, it's just, he is so, like, he's like kind of drunk, but then not really. But then, like, he just spaces out constantly. And it's just really funny with the actor. And he mentions how people who come into my tent want to curry favor with me, and some want my head. He points at another guy in the crowd who gave him the knife, and he just mentions that he mentions that if you're not here to curry favor with me, then you've come for my head, like, to kill me. And Duncan's just like, no, I didn't. And he's like, then why are you here, Duncan? Also, he didn't like his name. And then Duncan's like, I'm here for supper, I just wanted to eat. And then this kind of makes Lionel laugh, and he's just like, actually, that makes sense, like, and yeah, he told him his name, and he's just like, yeah, that's ridiculous, Sir Dunk, like, that's stupid. But then after that, everyone is just getting ready at the dance floor, they're partying, and then we have Lionel, who comes out of nowhere and just is he bisexual or something? I just have to ask, because he's definitely fruity or something. But anyways, he keeps stepping on Duncan's foot, to try to antagonize him. It's part of, like, this dance thing of, like, come on, like, have some fun, because Duncan is just a wet blanket kind of thing, a stickler, just so uptight, and Lionel's loose, and they keep Lionel keeps stomping at Duncan's feet almost like it's a dance, and then Duncan steps on his foot badly, and then I love Duncan's face here. Everyone is excited, like, and then Duncan's face is like shocked, horror, like, oh my goodness, I just assaulted a lord. Like, it's hilarious, it's funny. And then, like, the way Lionel is just like just smiling, like, that was awesome, like, that hurt, like, and the way that everyone's just dancing, it just reminds me of like a fun bar mitzvah, just the characters having fun, dancing, spinning around. These are people who are probably small folks, some nobles, but, just everyone having fun. Duncan is, spinning around too. Like, we've never really had moments like this in the main show where you have a highborn and a lowborn just having fun, and it's just not weird, their lives are not in danger, whatever. It's just, they're dancing around, having fun, like I said. And then, Lionel is kind of like passed out drunk, and they're just talking. Duncan is wearing the antler crown, and he just kind of mentions about the tourney, like, they're both talking about it, and Lionel kind of mentions, like, I did storms and stuff, I was in storms, like, on the sea, and, I was afraid of them, and it got through them. And then, Duncan is kind of like, tells Lionel how I'm strong, I'm big, but I can't fight like you, I didn't have the proper training, like, as much. And then, Lionel just eats a piece of meat, with this ice picker or something, like, this hammer that, like, can break a man's skull. It's funny. And he's honest with Duncan. He's just like, you have no chance, like, in the tourney tomorrow. Like, he's not being a jerk. He's just like, yeah, you don't have a chance, And, Duncan's just not happy to hear that. But it's just like, he mentions to him, yeah, one loss, and I won't be able to ransom back my own horse, nothing. I'll lose everything. And he, he touches Duncan, and he's just like, what should I do? And Lionel's just like, I don't know. Like, he's just honest. Like, I don't know if you should do it. I can't say do it, and I can't say don't do it. I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, he's just honest. And also he mentions, like, also, I'm quite drunk. Like, I cannot think, And then he steps on a table, takes his crown back, and goes on, to join everyone else. They're all kind of doing this, like, weird slow dance. But, yeah, like I said, it was just really fun. And then we have the girls taking Sir Manfred out in the tent. And Duncan goes to follow him. And he's just like, hey, Sir Manfred, my master and I, we served your father. Do you remember us? And Manfred Dondarrion, I can't believe this guy is Beric Dondarrion's ancestor. He's a jerk, because he's just like, yeah, I've killed Dornish men. He's just like, yeah, not my problem, Duncan, because he's just like, I mean, he has a point. He's like, my father took 800 swords in those mountains, against the Dornish. Like, I don't recall you. But it's like, yeah, but, like, he needs a favor. Like, just like, it costs you nothing to say, yeah, I remember him, but he doesn't do it. He goes back to the girls, and even, like, the girl that Duncan was talking to on the right, or, just seems kind of upset, just kind of like a sorry, like, I wish, like, you know, like we could help you kind of thing. And then Duncan goes back, he's not happy, and then he sees the kid. The kid had a fish, he had a campfire, and yeah, we see the kid again. And then he's just like, did you steal a horse? And he's like, no, I rode back on the lamb cart. Like, it's just funny. And you know, Duncan is just like, I am done with you, kid. Like, I've already had enough. You know, like, I've had a lousy day and, you know, crazy day. I don't need this right now. And just, you know, the kid even mentions, hey, I washed your clothes, I helped the horses, you know, and then the kid even mentions, I tried to raise your pavilion, but I couldn't find one. I love how his accent is so sophisticated, you know, it's just, I love this kid. And, you know, Duncan's like, I don't need a pavilion, you know, it's all fancy. I have a tree, and it's like, a tree. Trees leak, and, you know, and it's just like, yeah, I guess they kind of do. And then he asks him, you know, about his name again, you know, and it's just like Dunk. You know, it's like Duncan, and, you know, Duncan says, I am Sir Duncan the Tall, you know? And it's just, Duncan's just, the kid's just like, I've never heard of that before. It's just like, well, he's just kind of starting out, you know? Like, and you kind of have Duncan who just sits down, not knowing what to do. He just sits down to talk with the kid. And he's just like, okay, you know what? I don't know. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I can't kick you out. Like, I don't know what to do with you, but he says to the kid, like, I guess maybe you can try being my squire, but I can't promise anything. I promise not to, you know, beat you like my master did, you know, beat me. But he says, I'm only a hedge knight. I got nothing to my name, no money. I could lose it all tomorrow, and we have nothing, you know. So, yeah. So they're sitting at the, so they're sleeping on the grass, staring at the stars, and we see a comment. This is interesting. This will be important later. You know, the comment, but there's a comment back in Game of Thrones in the original. So yeah, the characters, you know, Aegon, yeah, I forgot, the kid mentioned his name, Egg, you know, like a chicken egg, but actually it's Egg, so yeah, you guys will know, he's gonna be very important later. But anyways, you know, the kid kind of mentions, hey, if you see a falling star, it's good luck. And he mentions how the other knights in their pavilions, they didn't get to see it like we did. It means good luck. And Duncan kind of looks back at the kid, telling him to sleep. And then afterwards, he's like, wait, good luck? Does that mean we have good luck tomorrow? Like, you know, the kid's smiling back. It's just like, you know, he stays silent and gives a smirk. They did a great job with casting with this kid, you know. And then Duncan kind of looks back up, you know, where the comet was, you know, kind of stares and thinks, and then he goes back, he tries to go to sleep because they have got a big day tomorrow. And then boom, that's it. The episode ends. So guys, honestly, this was a really good premiere. I think some people didn't like it. I'll admit, it's goofy, it's weird, it doesn't feel like Game of Thrones, it doesn't feel like House of the Dragons, but in a way, that's the point. Like, this is a spin-off. It's like the world beyond of the Game of Thrones. It's a different style, a different theme, a different feeling, you know. And I'll admit, I'll keep watching these, and I hope obviously they get a little bit better. But I did like the first episode, the pilot. Nothing mind-blowing, but I think it was good. So yeah, guys, that's gonna be it for my review. I'll see you. Sorry, cannot talk. I will see you all next time for the next one. Take care, guys. Bye.